Welcome back. Welcome back. And we are here. It's Liberty U Radio / TV show. And I want to remind you that you can call into the show and ask your questions today. We're kind of laid back here, and we're talking goals in 2011. We've got Rodger Blaker, who's about to come on and talk to us, and we have Patty Farmer. She's joining in the program.
I'm back.
Yes, you're back. And Rodger Blaker is a business and personal life coach, and he has Blaker Business Coaching. .com, and he's my personal coach. Okay, so he's really good, or I wouldn't have him on.
There's another plug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I always do that because I'm so proud.
Well, you don't know what that cost me either. So.
Yeah, and let me tell you what, it's well worth it because he's got a lot of knowledge, and you ought to tap into that today by calling us at 214-628-2068, and we'll let you ask your questions to Rodger or to Patty, who's been joining in. So I want to welcome officially back to the show my co-host and very good friend and personal business coach, Rodger Blaker.
Oh, thank you very much, and Happy New Year. Jimmy, Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year.
And you too. Patty, she just mentioned we just had a great meeting. Was that the day before yesterday, wasn't it?
Correct.
And we kind of dove into something there, and she kind of surprised me with a view she had on something, but it would have fallen right in line with what I had a dream to do. So we ended up really rocking and rolling for a couple of years. Yeah. Goals of 2011. Very first thing I want to say is this may sound counterintuitive or backwards of that, but I'm not real hot on goals. And I'll tell you more about it, why that is. I do work with people about finding out what they want, and as I usually ask people when they tell me what they want, if they've got an idea, I always ask them why do they want it, because I want to be able to find out a deeper truth about what's going on with the person, because what I'm going to talk about today I think fits into that realm.
I also think when people are talking about goals, a lot of times when I talk to them, I know that we talked about this, you talked about why. I always say, when are you going to achieve it? Because if they don't know, it's not a goal, it's a dream.
It's a dream.
Because a goal is only a dream with a deadline. No deadline, it's just a dream. It's not a goal.
It's just a dream, yeah. And it could be a pipe dream. Another thing I read, too, as a side note on that, is that I read this on the internet, that they said psychologically, too, if people go around telling people about what it is they're going to do and then get kind of a high off of telling people that, people respond that way, that internally, psychologically, they can feel like they're already there.
Oh, so I so agree with that.
And therefore, they don't really do anything.
That's a good point. I've met people that say, I don't talk about it until it happens, and maybe that's a good...
And they recommend that. Or the counterpart of it, and this is where I come in with people, is that, okay, I get what you want there. Let's break it down in tasks, because I want to see actions, as you know.
Results.
You're
a results-oriented coach. That's what I like about you, Rodger.
Yeah, we look at tasks. We break things down. Therefore, yeah, maybe you dream, but you're not just talking about it. You're going to get out of your chair and do something. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
And they need to write it down, too. When you say,
well, we do that. Yeah,
oh, writing it down is important.
One thing is we always have those sheets and do it that way. And that is regardless. I've got 2 Microsoft clients again now in Reno, and they're directors, and the form that we use there is from the company I work through, and it's pretty much the same form I use, and it's always the same thing. It's manageable tasks, broken down, so it doesn't matter if it's a solopreneur or a person in a major corporation like Microsoft. It all falls in the same realm. Okay, so I want to touch on this thing here. I made some notes around this as I put it together. That this is kind of an assumption I think people make, and if it is ideal, okay, 2011 I want something, and they think sometimes this way. Most often, if I had more, I could achieve more, and therefore I could become more.
Okay.
And I say that's
had more what?
Well, whatever.
Okay.
Stuff or whatever, and I say that's upside down. It's backwards.
Okay.
Because I mean, to give you an example of more time. And there's no such thing as more time. Time is what it is, right? We can't control time. It is there, and as soon as it's gone, it's gone. Or if I have an investment that I get a great return on, I don't have a lot of control over that because it depends on the market and stuff. And those things I don't have control over. So what do we have control over? And the simple answer of that is the only thing we have real control over is ourselves.
Absolutely.
And so if I want to become more, so what does that mean? It means looking at something in here, and the note I made here is my position that all achievement begins with personal foundation. And you've heard me talk about that before, and I don't know if we've touched it or not. And when I talk about personal foundation, it's the foundation of who I am, which goes around my values, my beliefs, and those kinds of things. And and as I've seen in my own life, and much of it, by the grace of God, changed from beliefs I had that were very negative to more positive ones. And I see that with everybody I work with. There's something usually there that we can identify that is some way or another causing them to react or make decisions or whatever that is not going to get them as far as they want to go, or even can hold them back.
Okay.
So it's very important to be clear when I'm looking at goals of the deeper core challenge I have about what is it that's going to prevent me from reaching that goal. And another piece is, so what? So I get this goal. So I end up doubling my income. So I'm able to now afford to buy this big monstrous house and everything like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't have any negative feelings, and I don't want to intend that that's not a good thing. But if we don't have a reason why, that if we're looking for those things to feel something else in me, then that's never going to be satisfactory.
So your why
stuff is never going to make it. It's like if I get a job that doubles my income, and I'm going for money. Remember one of these programs a while back I had? It's not that. It's about if it's identifying with who you are. If you're working for money only, you're never going to achieve much. And if we look around at that, look at people that are miserable, and a lot of the marketplace right now, people earning high incomes or whatever, and they're doing a job they're not happy with and everything, and the money is never enough. And you usually find them complaining about money.
And then their health suffers from that
sure.
as well.
I mean, that's the foundation piece for sure that wrecks our health. And look at our insurance costs and all those kinds of things. So,
but there's nothing wrong with making money.
well, not
Well,
at all.
nobody's saying not make money.
That's not it. I mean, how about being a very emotionally healthy person that's able to be totally present with where you are and content with life, with goals to achieve things going forward that may raise income,
That sounds
but
pretty
don't
happy.
have raise income and do the other. Because Dennis Prager had something, and he stated he said it more than once, which I believe is really true. He said, if you got basically happy people and they're making more money, they may be more happy. But if you got unhappy people, no matter how much money they make, they're never going to be happy.
Oh, that is so true.
And if you have
that is
social
true.
programs that are trying to supplement people with things, to give them stuff, if they're unhappy, no matter what they get, how much they get, they're never going to be happy, and they keep wanting more and more, and it steals from everybody else. So the question is about what am I really willing to look at? I'm going to skip down some of this because I think we've already gotten far enough into this it doesn't matter so much. Temporary changes. The setting goals. Say that, because we know we hear about this constantly. It's almost a big joke and everything. What's my New Year's resolution, right?
Exactly.
How many things we hear about losing weight, more exercise, basic fundamental things, which are good self-care. And I was researching something, though, and do you know there's more books written about diet and health than any other books are written, and there's more books sold on that than any other books on the shelves?
And if you notice, then there's more of them sold from the month of December through February, too.
I can see that.
That's our goal-setting month.
And
There you
then
go.
we're a society, though, that's really struggling, and it's in the paper all the time about the health issues around weight. So obviously buying the books and all that is not doing a thing for it. And the other one's exercise. There's probably more DVDs done on exercising tapes and everything that are not used. So what's the issue? I mean, what's going on here? What's wrong? And then what is the answer? So rhetorical question, right?
I think it's kind of just like sort of what we were talking about before, is that follow-through. You can set all the goals you want, but if you don't have follow-through, so it doesn't matter whether it's exercise or anything else. If you
And
don't
I
have-
also think people are spending a lot of more time, and they don't seem like they value their time. They go, I want to spend the time doing that. Exercise requires time. How am I going to fit that in? At least for me, I can't talk for everybody, but time has an element. Where am I going
What's
to
talking
put
about there is
that?
priority.
Yeah, priority.
Exactly.
There
When
we
they're
go.
making their goals,
Right.
are they just making their goals because they think, like you said, those are temporary?
I love the way I
Right.
heard you say it. You said, no, every year I do the same goals, and this year I'm going to do something. I wish I could, I'm going to go after something loftier, because it is always on there. Be more healthy, lose weight, and so what? That just kind of make me. If that's all I'm going to put down every year, that is to do something that is going to make me happy. Which those would, but I mean something beyond that.
Well, I'm going to use a term, and I just
Okay.
showed it to Patty a minute ago. What I call it is what is needed for any of us is a heart transplant. We need to change a heart because we live in our head and we look for things outside of us for that feel good or whatever. I mean, the addictions and all that things, the world's full of them. And sadly, even people that really have committed to be healthier and get away from an addiction of alcohol, drugs, and there's thousands of them, a lot of those people are just white-knuckling it. because still inside themselves there's something empty and void there, and they haven't dealt with the heart matter, and they just white knuckle it. And I'm not saying everybody's doing that, and I'm also not saying somebody, if they're doing that, at least they're doing something better for themselves than they were before.
Correct.
But really, what it comes down to is what's the thing that's maybe broken in my heart that I'm not looking at and dealing with, and again, that's what's driving me oftentimes to do these other things, to try to find relief from something that I'm avoiding and running from. So it really is a matter about looking in here. So I would say that if anybody's going to set an objective for themselves, and they're struggling without these outside resources, obviously if we need income and we're really don't have a job or need income, finding a job is the number one priority, and forget really all the rest of this stuff, because I need to find a job. I mean, I got to have income to be able to eat and live. Those kinds of things are obviously priority. But a lot of people we know aren't living there, but they're still not happy. And they're wondering around why. And a lot of people don't even want to ask the question, and they can create misery for other people because they're not happy.
And to me, maybe they feel guilty because they already, it's kind of like the thing of the survivor, the people that are really surviving in the economy. Maybe feel bad because they do have friends and family that are just.
There's so many people, though, that really have a lot of money and they don't know what to do with, and they're still miserable. So if they're not doing something that, you're right, like that heart transplant, I really like that term. That's a great term, changing of the heart, for sure.
I think if somebody wants some ideas about, well, what do I do? And that's a very loaded question, because there can be a degree of people that really, and I'm going to say this, really qualified therapists. They may need some work around there. They need somebody to help them go back and clean up things or whatever from that past back there. And when I say qualified, because there's a lot of them, I'm not sure they're really in the right field, like many, but that's any field. So I'm always very careful about that, because I did a lot of that work in the area, and a lot of them I worked with, I could tell I could do a better job than they did. So being very careful there. But that could be the past needs to be cleaned up. Some of it could be that that's not so much, I'm pretty functional, but something's still missing. And one key thing I would say, if you really wanted to do something to kind of have a change of heart, because you're really kind of feeling this emptiness or whatever, something else is there, if you focus outside yourself, the number one thing, if you'd find a way to focus outside of you onto somebody else, that's the number one thing to get us out of our head and get us out of those kind of negative things going on.
Now you're talking my talk.
Yeah, well, because you do. You have
no,
that,
now we're talking about what I teach people every day.
If you and it's like, I don't feel like doing it. Well, to hell with your feelings, because we live in a society here that's so much about feelings, and I get sick of it, frankly, because I may not feel like doing something, but if I'm doing the right thing, even though I don't feel like it, shouldn't I go ahead and do it anyway?
But sometimes choosing what's, I get to a point where I feel some of the decisions I have to make might negatively affect someone else. Those are hard.
I'm not saying it. I'm saying that's a simple statement. I'm not saying it's not hard. I totally agree.
Well, sometimes it's changing the hard stuff that's really where it, it gets you. But
I deal with situations often where somebody really needs to take care of something that is in a relationship that really isn't easy, and I wouldn't claim that it's easy to go out there and do that. And I will tell you, that brings up a point. I was thinking about this earlier.
Or firing. Let's see if you have a job. If you're working, or
I've done that with a recent company owner here, where he had a person that really was his right-hand person for helping him build his business. But as it grew, that person didn't fit into the realm. It really caused a lot of problems, and he had to make a decision of letting that go, and it was really, really hard. Yeah. And that all means that using discernment and wisdom, how I do that in a caring, loving way, all those kinds of things. Relationship changes. As I started to say a minute ago, the thing that I thought of that is probably the most difficult, the hardest work we will do in our lives is working on us.
Oh, for sure.
Nothing else you're going to do is going to be more difficult than working on ourselves.
And wouldn't you say, like, really honestly, I would say if you're going to set a goal, I know that for me, the number one goal I made for myself, not just because it was a new year, is what are the things that are standing in your way? Because sometimes the things that are standing in our way, we put them there. What are